let's talk a little bit more about the power of social proof. So imagine you're on a freeway or an interstate and you're in the left-hand lane and there's what feels like a mile of cars in front of you and they're all merging over to the right lane. It's highly likely that when you see a mile of cars merging over to the right lane, that you're going to merge over to the right lane too. And see, there's a study that shows, in fact, there's a patrolman that talks about he would see large amounts of accidents happen because of this. And there's really no reason for it. In fact, a lot of the time, it's just the first couple of cars that are merging over to the right lane because they need to get over. They need to get over to the right, it's, some type of an exit in front of them. And by the first couple cars moving over to the right at essentially the same time, it causes the next, let's say 3 to 7 cars to move over to the right at the same time, right? They see the cars in front of them moving over. They say, okay, something must be going on. We're gonna move over to the right too. And then the cars behind that, let's say cars 8 through 100, see the cars in front of them, 7 cars moving over, cars 8 through 100, and I'm kind of just making these numbers up, by the way, but cars 8 through 100 see cars 1 through 7 moving over in somewhat of the same fashion. They say something's happening and I need to protect myself. This is the right thing to do. We need to move over too. And so you have this swarm of cars all moving over all at the same time. Accidents take place, things happen, but this is social proof happening, and people are moving over to the right and they don't even have a reason to. If all the cars in front of them wouldn't have moved over, they would have just stayed in the left lane, kept going. This is what's called herd mentality. So Dan Kennedy talks a lot about the herd. He talks about, sending an email to the herd, stuff like that. And another way to think of the herd is to think of buffaloes. Okay, so buffaloes, in fact, when you talk about a stampede, it's the herd, right? It's the herd stampede that takes place. And buffalo have their eyes on the sides of their head. And because the shape of their head and their neck, they're pretty much looking down. Okay, so they're only seeing from the sides of their head, they're looking down. And so that by nature, they follow the buffalo in front of them. And so the way to create a herd mentality is you just have to get the buffalo in the front to take action, right? Whether that's something that scares them, whether it's ranchers that are getting them to move, but they don't have to get all of the herd, all the buffalo in the back to take action. They just have to get the buffalo in the front to take action. And by doing so, it creates a herd mentality through social proof, and the buffalo below, with their heads down and their eyes to the side, are just following. They're just following. And in fact, there's stories about how they can create a stampede that just goes over the cliff because they're not aware of what's happening. They're just following what's in front of them. This is social proof. So we can use social proof to our advantage in our marketing and in our businesses, and we don't have to get everybody to move. We just have to get the first initial few people to raise their hand and move forward. And by doing so, we can create herd mentality. It's incredibly cool. So fascinating. So figure out how to use that to your advantage. Again, you don't have to create herd mentality, or in fact, you create herd mentality through just getting initial reaction from the first few people. And by doing that, they raise their hand, the herd then follows, saying, I should probably do this too.